in that moment, what was that feeling like once you got that vinyl out and you knew that South Carolina was going back to Omaha?
Yeah. You always believed in yourself, and we always believed in our team, but to see it happen was, it was, I won't say surreal because we believed in ourselves, but it was just unbelievable. Like our family came out on the field, first time we've been in a while, first time we've ever been as a team or anybody on that team. Coach Tanner had been, Coach Holbrook had been with North Carolina, but I mean, it was just unbelievable, and Coastal, by the way, was definitely maybe the best team we played even in Omaha. Those guys were unbelievable. They came at you with arms and speed. Rico Noel in center. I mean, they were good all around, 1-9, and we just had to fight, and we just we came out on the right side.
Absolutely. So you guys go to Omaha 2010. I know Gamecock fans will never forget, but I kind of want to walk through what happened. You guys are facing elimination against Oklahoma. You're able to come back. We obviously all know the story, Jackie Bradley Jr. with the huge hit, and you guys are able to rally and win that game. When that one happened, it's funny. Again, I know I've brought it up a couple of times, but we talked to Michael Roth, and he actually said after you guys lost that first game, he really wasn't sure. I'm curious to get your mindset because he wasn't sure. He was like, well, this trip might be over. Glad we made it to Omaha, but, who knows what's going to happen from here. Did you guys as a team, did your confidence ever waver even when you were facing elimination that, no big deal, we can rattle off 3, 4, however many wins it was in a row and take home the trophy?
We always knew we could win and get back to it, but we kind of, we were the group of guys where I'm almost smiling, I'm laughing a little bit thinking about this. When we got down to elimination, I don't know if it was Roth or somebody had the smart idea of saying, hey, let's just keep winning so we can get more meal money. Let's just at least make more, a little bit of meal money to stay out here, getting to the Oklahoma game, we were believing, one game at a time, anything can happen, but we hadn't been in that situation. We had to go rattle off, 5 or 6 in a row to win the thing. But getting down to Oklahoma with Jackie Bradley down to, 2-2 count, 1 strike away from going home, you kind of, at that point, you're just looking at Jackie saying, well, Jack, help us out, buddy. Let's go, So, yeah, I mean, there's times where, you can't lie to yourself. It was, shoot, back against the wall. We're a strike away, and we're out away from going home. But, there are some special people and special things happen that year. You think about Baylor Teal. I mean, that year right there, there's the good Lord definitely does some special things, and he definitely did something special that year. And you can't even look past that because that's stronger than anything. Any part of that season is what, the story behind that and how strong he was for us. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I played ball. I played with the Dodgers organization with Oklahoma's catcher, Tyler Ogle. And he tells me till this day, and he'd always give me, we try to talk some trash. He'd always say that 2-2 count to Jackie Bradley was a strike. And so what I did, I got on YouTube and I screenshotted and paused right when that ball was crossing the plate, clearly 6 inches inside, And I showed him that and obviously text him that and, might text him that actually when we get off the phone. But, yeah, I mean, he always said that was a strike, but, it was clearly a ball. Good take by Jackie, So I thought that was pretty funny that I got to kind of relive those moments with Tyler when I played with him.
Absolutely. So after that, you guys are still facing elimination, obviously. You're facing your arch rival in the Clemson Tigers, who you had actually lost the series to, I believe, earlier that season. We all know, and I'm sure you guys were reminded of it if you didn't know, the history of South Carolina and Clemson in Omaha specifically, when South Carolina was able to come back from elimination and eliminate Clemson, beat them twice in Omaha. Going into those games against Clemson, because I really don't feel like you need to hype up a rivalry anymore, especially South Carolina Clemson, which I'd say is the best rivalry in college baseball. How much did you guys hear about all the history, and how much was that in the back of your mind when you guys took the field against them?
Yeah, I think after we beat Oklahoma, not everybody was kind of talking about it, but you heard a couple rumblings that this is who we wanted. Not everybody was just saying this is who we wanted, this is who we wanted, but there was talk of, hey, that's who we want to play right there. If we got to beat anybody twice, that's who you want to play, because one, it's our rival, and two, there was some there's some in-state guys that took that rivalry very passionately, and I know myself was one, Michael Roth was one, and a bunch of other guys that didn't just take the Clemson game as and here's why I'll go back to that. Some guys that are from out of state, I think Coach Tanner was pretty good at this, that some guys from out of state, not that they don't mean to, but they just don't understand that rivalry, what that means and how much that means. And for me, I understood it. I was a Clemson fan growing up, and I kind of understood, and I took that as like another game. I know they say, you don't look at it as another game, a big game. No, there is other games, and that was definitely another game. So we just had some guys on that team that wanted to really beat those guys, and obviously they did too. But Michael Roth was the first. He pitched that first game, and I know he was a Clemson fan growing up, so he may have had a little extra something, to that game as well, just like a couple other of us. But you still had to go play the game, and we just obviously played a heck of a 2 games there, and got to see Garrett Cole first game of the championship.
Absolutely. So yeah, moving into that championship series, you guys take on UCLA, who you mentioned had arms like Garrett Cole, Trevor Bauer. I mean, these are guys that are still pitching right now in the big leagues. Obviously, big time, big money arms. We see what Garrett Cole, both those guys are doing. I mean, they're just extremely, extremely talented and very, very good pitchers. You guys' mindset going into that championship series, I mean, I'd imagine you guys, it seemed like you had a pretty loose group. Just talk about the mindset going in that series and knowing you were going up against a team like a UCLA with the type of power arms that they had.
Yeah, we had just beat Clemson twice, so momentum-wise, I don't know if you could ever get a better momentum than what we had. We just had to beat Clemson twice. I mean, we're feeling unbelievable, kind of just, I felt like if we won that first game, I mean, it was going to be tough to beat us. And Garrett Cole was on the mound. I'll never forget. I don't know if it was Bobby or Brady Thomas. I mean, we hit him hard. I remember hitting a little kind of like a little liner down left fielder dove for it, and got a triple. But there's a couple we had some dinkers, and they had a huge error at second base. I don't know if you remember that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I just let it right under the old chute. Yeah. I know that feeling though. I'm not laughing at him because I've had that before. That's a terrible feeling. But that was a big play for us, and we got up. We beat them pretty good that game.
7-1 the first game. You actually had a triple in that one. So
7-1. Yeah. So that was huge for us.
Absolutely. So we go into the second game. You guys get to the bottom of the 9th inning. It's a tie ball game, 1-1. You're leading off the inning, Bobby, and you're leading off the inning. I remember, I'll never forget, the count gets to 3-2. We find out later Ray Tanner gives you the bunt sign to push bunt down the third base line. He said the third baseman was playing back. When you look back on that, Scott, I mean, when you got that signal, what was going through your mind? And then obviously, like we talked about earlier, you really showed your discipline at the plate and were able to take that pitch. Just kind of walk me through that at bat and how you're able to stay so disciplined and not do too much there.
I was laughing as you were talking about Coach Tanner. saying the third baseman's back. When he gave me that bunt sign, I don't think the camera stayed on me very long, but I looked at him and shook my head like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because in my mind, I thought I might hit a walk-off homer. Something, I couldn't hit very well, but I believed, I was a pretty good believer, but, so I looked at him like he was crazy, and he gave it to me again with like a look on his face, like, but like, don't you take this off and swing. So I was just like, well, shoot. All right, here we go. And I remember, I think the guy threw me a changeup. And I saw it out of his hand really well, and was able to, tell it was a ball down, and just took it, flipped my bat, and just started flying over there to first base. But Coach Tanner always says the third baseman was back, but Coach, he wasn't back that far. He I like to think that Coach probably more, was probably more on the side of thinking I could get on base bunting the ball rather than swinging. He says the third baseman's back, but I remember looking at third baseman. He wasn't too far by the bag. So, but hey, that was an unbelievable call by Coach.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure where I heard the quote. Maybe it was Michael Roth. We had him on. I think what he said about that at bat for you is he said that Coach Tanner knew that, he knew that Scott would swing at a strike, but he knew he wouldn't bunt at one. And that's why he gave him the bunt sign. So.
Yeah. That's hilarious. He knew he'd swing at a strike, but he wouldn't bunt at one.
Or swing at a ball, I mean. Yeah, he knew he'd swing at a ball out of the zone, but he wouldn't bunt at a ball out of the zone. So put the bunt on and make his eye even better, draw the walk.
Oh, so true. That too. Yeah. I mean, Coach is smart, man. He he knew the game. One thing about Coach and I, like we'd always, butt heads a little bit, but we both wanted to win. We had that. He never kind of, he'd always question some things I did rightfully, but he always knew that, I wanted to win. And, that's one thing about Coach and I feel like we're pretty good at.
Absolutely. So we all know how that game ends. You're on third base, though, Scott. I mean, you've got one of the best views in the house, obviously. Whit Merrifield with the walk-off single. Just talk me through. You cross home plate. You obviously get mobbed after you cross home plate. Then you go mob Whit Merrifield. Just in that moment, describe that feeling, because that's not a feeling that many people get. Granted, you had it twice, but not a lot of people get to score the game-winning run and just win a national championship, especially bringing the first national championship to a school. Just talk about what that feeling was like.
Yeah, I just remember being on third base, and Holbrook was just telling me, hey, back on the line, don't get too far off the bag. And obviously those are things that, third base coach needs to do. But I was just on third base looking up near my family, realizing we had Whit Merrifield up. I believe Jackie Bradley or Christian Walker on deck. So, I was thinking, man, we might just go ahead and do this right here. And, I know it's a 2-0 count. And people always have questioned, why didn't they walk Whit? But if you walk Whit, then you've got Jackie and Walker, or then if you walk Jackie, I mean, you're just a recipe for failure right there. But man, the guy made a heck of a pitch to Whit. And, Whit had more hits in the big leagues than anybody all year last year. So the guys we had on that team, I mean, Whit's probably one of the best hitters you'll see, and he just drove that ball, stayed with it, 2-0 pitch. It's, a lot of guys try to get a little big there, but Whit, man, Whit being the baseball player he is, just stayed on that ball, and just probably one of the coolest surreal moments I've ever had playing baseball, running down that third baseline. And I always tell this story. It got louder as I was running from third to home. Like coming from left field, it sounded like a jet coming at me, and it just got louder and louder and louder. And by the time it got loud enough, Pat Sullivan and Jackie were trying to tackle me at home plate. But man, that moment was probably one of the best best baseball moments I've had, because just the First time us ever doing that as a program and as a university. It was unbelievable. Can't even describe it. And shoot, man, it's pretty cool to even think about.